March 28th, 2017. Something's wrong with Grandma Kathy. I put off writing this for a couple of weeks because I was hoping she'd go back to how she's supposed to be, but ever since Dad tried to visit, things have just been getting worse and worse. I wish I knew why this whole thing is bugging her so much. I mean, it was pretty strange, sure. He doesn't say a word to anyone for more than a year, and then he just appears in her bedroom one night? Eesh. Not very tactful there, Dad. You think you could have given us a call first? A letter? Something? Just a weird thing to do. And I know there's some bad blood, because that's what happens when a dad dumps his 5-year-old on his mom and skips town, but that was 9 years ago. I know Kathy has forgiven him by now. We've talked about it. But geez, for some reason she is not handling this well. She won't even admit that it was him. It was dark, and he sure did bolt when the lights came on. Maybe I didn't get the best look at him, but I knew who it was right away. Just the shape of him. I'd recognize those big round shoulders and that scruffy beard anywhere. I don't know who she thinks she's kidding. Herself, probably. So yeah, Grandma is not okay. In fact, she seems really scared. She jumps at every shadow she sees, grumbles about how dangerous the dark is when she thinks I'm not listening, and worst of all, she keeps every single one of the apartment lights shining all day and all night. There are like 3 lamps in every room right now. It's a sauna in here. She'll let me sleep with my own lights off, but only if I plug in her weird bluebird nightlight. I'm sorry, Kathy. I wish I could be more understanding, but you're really driving me crazy here. I can't get a good night's sleep, I'm always a little sweaty, and to top it all off, I haven't had a friend over in forever. Maybe I'd be less annoyed if I actually had someone to talk to about all of this. But Kathy sure won't, and none of my friends want to hear about my poor old granny, so that just leaves me in this book. I don't even like writing diaries. I really hope she gets better soon, for both our sakes. March 31st, 2017. Oh my God, finally a good day. Today I started talking to my old friend Erin Kessinger from 4th grade again. I forgot how cool this girl is. She just has this way about her. Like, she doesn't really care about anything. She'll say whatever to whoever, and she's not even mean about it. She's just honest, I guess. And it's really nice. For example, today, when I told her about everything going on with my grandma, she didn't sugarcoat her opinion at all. She was just like, "So your grandma's crazy." I love my Grandma Kathy, but hearing those words out of someone else's mouth was such a relief to me. I guess I had this creeping suspicion that maybe I was the crazy one. Like, I was missing something? Anyway, we had this great idea. Tomorrow, Erin's going to stay the night, and Kathy will get to see how normal people are supposed to behave. I'll admit, writing it down here makes it feel like a little much, but I can actually hear my grandma through the wall at this very moment, muttering to herself, probably about spooky nighttime. Poor lady. If she's so scared, why doesn't she just call the police or get better locks on the doors or something? If the man wants to show up, some bright lamps aren't going to stop him. But yeah, I'm really excited. I think having someone around who isn't family will definitely help Grandma readjust. We already had a really big fight about it. In the end, she finally gave up and just made me promise not to play with her lights at all. I can do that. The real question is, can you calm down for a night, Kathy? Erin's really cool. I think she can handle you. I just don't want to risk scaring her off. If you could stop looking all over for shadows like a nervous bird and mumbling and micromanaging everything just for a few hours, that would be amazing. It sucks that you're suffering, but I don't think either of us can go on like this for much longer. We'll see what happens. Right now, it's just good to know that something's going to happen, Even if it's nothing big, I think I really need it to break up the boring, stuffy life I've been living since Kathy went off the deep end. A girl gets tired of being cooped up all the time, especially in a place like this. I hope that doesn't sound too desperate or dramatic. It's just how I'm feeling, and I guess this diary won't mind either way. Here's hoping something, anything at all, changes. April 18th, 2017. This is really overdue. It's been, 2-3 weeks since I've written in this thing? I'm not gonna fault myself for it, though. I've never felt so messed up in my entire life. God, every time I try to sleep, I think of her face and just... A lot's happened since my last entry. It feels like my whole life was upended in one night. I won't lie, things weren't great before, but at least I could hope they'd get better. Now, I don't even have that. Grandma Kathy was basically my mom, and now she's gone forever. I wonder if this would be any easier if it weren't all my fault. I have no idea. I've never seen anyone else die before. I guess I can't take all the blame, though. Really, it just feels that way because of how it all happened. Erin is... well, she's a problem solver. The night she slept over, we were sitting in my room reading through some of my favorite horror manga when she put the book down, looked at me, and was like, "Is your grandma asleep?" I thought it was a weird thing to ask, but I didn't make a big deal out of it. It was probably 3 a.m. I told her that there was no way Kathy would still be up, and she said something like, "Cool. I think I know how to fix your problem." I should have told her no. I should have told her that I wasn't going to break my promise to my grandma. I should have done a lot of things. Instead, like the spineless little wimp that I am, I crept out into the apartment and helped Erin shut off all the lights while Kathy slept. We were going to force her to spend a night in the dark, prove once and for all that there was nothing for her to be afraid of. Then, finally, she'd be able to get over her whole obsession or whatever it was, and everything would go back to normal. That's what was supposed to happen. We stayed up all night, listening to the whispers coming from her room. We were sure that at any moment she'd come to her senses, realize what we'd done, and come scream at us or something. The moment never came. Instead, just before dawn, the whispering stopped, and we heard her feet moving on the carpet. It sounded like she was wandering down the hall and to the front door. After that, nothing. We were all alone, listening to the sound of our own breath. When we checked on her in the morning, all we found was this... I don't even know what to call it. Was barely her body. Barely human. Her eyes were white, lidless pearls, staring out of the remains of her face. Her nose and lips, fingernails and hair, they looked like they never really formed at all. All her features were vague, sunken into the skin. Where there should have been holes for her mouth and nostrils, there were only faint grooves in the unwrinkled, flawless tissue. And she was limp. Not limp like any corpse I'd seen on TV, either. I don't know if she even had any bones left in her. It was like a hole had been poked in her body and everything that made her sucked out. An empty sack of flesh draped over the side of the bed, staring at nothing. I have described this like a dozen times now. Police, relatives, curious friends. I've gotten a lot better at it, but that doesn't help the sick feeling in my stomach. God, those eyes. No color, no pupils. I can feel them looking at me whenever I shut the lights off. I'm living with my Aunt Liz now. I haven't heard from Erin in more than a week, which I'm not really too upset about. Right now, I'm just trying not to let this whole thing get to me. I keep wanting to check on my shadow, but I think that's only because Kathy did it so much. It's like a spooky mind thing, I guess. I've been sleeping with the Bluebird nightlight on anyway, though. Maybe it's weird, but it sort of makes me feel, I don't know, safe. April 20th, 2017. It's 2 a.m. I really wish I could sleep, but everything is just so wrong right now. I swear I keep seeing movement just outside the glow of Kathy's nightlight. Every time I start to doze, there's this sound. A whisper, I guess? But it's not words, just noises. And when I wake up to see where it's coming from, it stops. I want to sleep with the lights on, but I don't want to feel as crazy as my grandma. I'm just spooked is all. And hey, I have a really good reason to be. 2 things happened today that would freak out anybody in my shoes. The first was at breakfast this morning. Liz was on her laptop, and she paused mid-bite through a piece of toast to say, "Oh my God, have you seen this, Miriam?" I left my eggs and went over to look at the computer screen. At the top of the page, there was this big title that said, 3 more found in blank corpse string. There were pictures beneath it. At first, I didn't really pay attention to them, but as we scrolled through the article, I slowly started to get what I was looking at. They were people who had died in the same strange way as Kathy. Unlike Kathy, though, their faces were completely missing, bodies sagging like clothes with no one inside. The only features left were those staring, bleached eyes. I listened to my aunt read the article, and tried very hard not to break into tears. Tried? I'm still trying. It wasn't just my grandma. There are others. A lot of them. According to the article, I guess it's all connected? Like, if it happens to you, it will also probably happen to some of the people you know? I don't know. I won't pretend to get it. All I know is that I'm terrified that whatever this is, my grandma passed it on to me. They say they'll release an official statement soon along with some prevention methods? Whatever that means. All I want to do is sit here next to my nightlight and pray that I'm not next. I bet Erin's in her room right now, doing the same thing. Actually, that was the other reason I'm so freaked out. Erin visited today. Without any kind of warning, she showed up at my aunt's door. And she wasn't herself. I never thought I'd see a look like that on her face. That anger. She seemed like she was close to tears, she was so mad. The first thing she did was grab my shirt in her fists and tell me that, "That's not funny." I had no idea what she was talking about, and right now, I'm not actually super glad that I asked. Apparently, my grandma showed up in Erin's room last night. She ran off when the lights went on, but Erin said there was no mistake. It was definitely her. And she'd been whispering something. I guess she thought this whole thing was some kind of weird joke? It didn't take much to change that. I showed her the article, and we looked at each other and just said nothing. You'd think we'd both burst into tears and hold each other or something, but no. Instead, we just agreed to check in on each other every day, and then off she went. I think, in a way, we're both still trying to pretend this isn't real. Maybe it is, but I'm not Kathy. I'll be okay. I will. As long as I stay with my nightlight. April 24th, 2017. I haven't left the house in 4 days. Since Erin's last visit, everything's just gone insane. The government tried their sirens and their emergency broadcasts for a little while. They talked about quarantines, which I guess is a way to keep sickness from spreading. Everyone got all panicked for a whole 2 days. Even my Aunt Liz was packing her bags to leave. And then the power started to go out. First the inner city, then the downtown, and finally here, in the suburbs. I've been awake this whole time, sitting with my nightlight in my lap. It's one of those weird, wall-charging torchlights, so it has a battery. I'm just not sure how long it'll last. And really, I'm not sure how much longer it'll matter. Something's happening. It isn't just sickness, it's something else. As the darkness set in last night, I started to hear the sound again. That vague whisper. And this time, it wasn't just one voice inside my room. It was all over. Coming from my aunt's room upstairs, from the window, sounding faintly from the streets outside, and, at least in my head, every bedroom of the houses lining them. It filled the world, a million hushed voices muttering together senselessly. We passed a single night in the dark, and in the morning, everything was quiet. It's day now. I've turned off my nightlight to save the battery. Maybe I should go check on my Aunt Liz, but I just can't bring myself to go upstairs. I keep thinking of my grandma, her empty body, those soulless eyes. It's bright out. It would have been such a nice day. I think I'm going to go visit Erin. April 24th, 2017. I don't know why I'm writing this. I guess the same reason I started writing here in the first place. I need someone to talk to about what's happening, but this is all I have. All I'll ever have. Now. I thought I might try to write my last will and testament or whatever here. Then I thought, what's the point? Who would ever get to read it? Besides, as the sun gets lower in the sky, there's really only one thing on my mind. Erin. I said I was going to visit her. Well, I did. This was maybe 3 hours ago. God, my hands are shaking. I can't keep my lines straight. So, I left the house to go see Erin. Maybe I should have gone hunting for a bunch of flashlights, or a generator, or something. My brain wasn't working at the time, and it's too late now. Instead, my feet took me through the empty roads to Erin's townhouse. The whole trip, I could hear murmuring from within the houses. Not as loud as the night before, but loud enough for me to know that they were still inside. Behind each window, there was a dark figure, watching, waiting. When I arrived, I almost knocked on the door. I heard the whispering inside and thought better of it. Careful not to make a sound, I pushed open the door and crept through the kitchen to the staircase. I made my way up and prayed that the whispering was coming from every room but Erin's. I think, though, down inside, I already knew what was about to happen. Her door was cracked. I peeked in through the gap. The curtains were drawn, but even in the dim light, I could see everything. Erin's collapsed body, the color fading from her eyes, and my grandma standing nearby. She was whispering something to Erin's shadow, and as she did, it began to pull itself like tape off of the floor. The further it rose, the more Erin's face melted away. Her hair began to recede backward into her scalp. Her eyes. Slowly, she was erased from her own body, and every feature that vanished from her appeared on the shadow. Her mouth sealed up, and her shadows opened wide. Her nostrils pinched shut, and her shadows flared. And her eyes. Her eyes. The only part of her eyes that made it onto her shadow were the blue rings and the black pupils at their center, glassy beads too small for the shadow's face. By the time it could stand on its own, Erin was only a pale sheet of skin. The features it stole from her were all negative, holes cut into the darkness. All but her eyes. I gasped when I saw it take its first step. In that instant, everything made sense to me. I thought of my dad dashing out of the apartment beneath the lights. I thought of my grandma's whispering the night before she died. I thought of the sounds I'd been hearing in my own room for nights on end. The thing that was not Erin and the thing that was not my grandma both seemed to hear the sound and looked at me, tiny eyes glaring through the half-light. I ran, and didn't stop running until I was home. I tried not to notice, but I think I saw Aunt Liz standing in the darkness of the TV room on the way in. I shut my door and locked it. I don't want to know. I don't want to know. And now, here I am, sitting in the sunlight at the center of my floor, a pen in one hand and my nightlight in the other. What am I supposed to do? What's the answer to this? They're going to come for me. I know it. I know they will. And then what? Final entry. This light won't last much longer. I can see them. They've cracked the door, the window. Every time the bulb flickers, they inch closer. Their voices are so loud. Their eyes are so bright. Kathy, Aaron, Liz, Tad, a dozen others I don't know. They're all standing outside the glow of the nightlight, whispering at me. Their eyes are so bright. Their voices are so loud. And I'm so tired. My whole body is trembling. My vision is blurry. My face and skin are tingling with numbness. If I wasn't so afraid, I'd drift off right now. How do I make this count? Should I apologize for doubting Kathy? For dragging Aaron into this? Should I scream at my father for whatever he did to bring this on us? For never being there? Maybe I shouldn't do anything at all. I think that's all I can make myself right. I just want to close my eyes. I don't know. I think I just saw my shadow move its head. And with that, our Junji Ito series comes to a close. Writing this story was actually a very trying challenge for us. We tend to like characters who drive the plot, but this time we had to give that up and focus on creating a narrative driven by the disclosure of the spectacle instead. If we did our job right, you should have been able to tell what was going on by the end. Give us your interpretation of this shadowy craziness in the comments, and we'll see how well we did. Now, not all of you follow us on social media, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on at the Foundry that we haven't had the chance to tell you about on the channel itself yet. This month, we broke 50,000 subscribers. That's enough to populate a small city. It's difficult just to believe that there's so many of you watching this show. Our little community is growing, and it's time to expand. If you want to talk to us and all the other fiction-obsessed humans who watch the show, join our Discord server. I personally won't be online too often, but you'll find our humans there, and there's no shortage of creativity in our fans. Link in the description. Also, as a way to show how grateful we are for all your support, we're giving away a Tale Foundry hoodie to one lucky fan. You don't have to like or comment or subscribe or anything, we just want you to know how much we appreciate you for watching. And if you aren't the winner, don't worry. We now have hoodies and shirts available in our merch store. Again, you can find links for all of this in the description below. And one last thing before we sign off, we have to thank our amazing supporters on Patreon. Together, you make it possible for us to keep working on this show. A special thanks in particular to our top supporter, Arc D'Angelo. Hopefully I pronounced that right. Thanks for all the help. As always, thanks for watching, and keep making stuff up. We'll see you next month. Bye!